The story begins long before the public ever heard the name Jeffrey Epstein spoken in whispers. It begins in quiet rooms, behind closed doors, in places where influence moves without sound and power rarely leaves a paper trail. According to records, Epstein's rise was not marked by traditional milestones of success. There were no clear explanations, no transparent business paths, only sudden access to wealth, private jets, exclusive properties, and people who mattered. Reports suggest that Epstein cultivated an image of discretion. He presented himself as a financier, an advisor, a man who could navigate the complicated worlds of money and privilege. Yet documents indicate that his financial operations were unusually opaque. Unlike many high-profile investors, he had no clearly defined firm managing large numbers of clients. Still, his lifestyle reflected immense resources. The gap between what was known and what was visible quietly widened. According to records, Epstein moved easily among elite social circles. Politicians, academics, business leaders, royalty, and celebrities appeared in photographs, flight logs, guest books, and event listings connected to him. None of this was illegal on its face. Wealthy individuals often share spaces, but what drew attention later was not simply who crossed his path, but how often, how privately, and under what circumstances. Behind closed doors, Epstein owned multiple residences, a mansion in Manhattan, a sprawling estate in Florida, properties in New Mexico and Paris, and most notably, a private island in the Caribbean. Documents indicate that access to these locations was tightly controlled. Staff members signed non-disclosure agreements. Security systems were extensive. Visitors arrived and departed discreetly. Reports suggest that Epstein valued silence as much as wealth. Former employees later described strict rules about communication, record-keeping, and interactions with guests. According to court filings, certain rooms were restricted, certain schedules carefully managed. Everything about the operation appeared designed to minimize scrutiny. The first major public cracks appeared in the mid-2000s. According to law enforcement records, allegations emerged in Florida involving underage girls. The accusations described patterns rather than isolated incidents. Documents indicate that local authorities began investigating quietly, gathering statements, and reviewing evidence. What followed would later become one of the most controversial chapters of the entire story. According to court records, Epstein entered into a non-prosecution agreement in 2008. The details of that agreement remained largely hidden from the public at the time. Reports suggest that the deal limited exposure, restricted who could be charged, and sealed certain information. The agreement raised questions that would echo for years. Why was the case handled in this manner? Why were federal prosecutors involved in a way that limited broader accountability? Why were the alleged victims not fully informed? According to later investigations, these questions were never adequately addressed at the time. Behind closed doors, the machinery of influence appeared to be working. Documents indicate that powerful legal teams negotiated aggressively. Reports suggest that personal connections may have played a role in shaping outcomes. Official statements emphasized legality, procedure, and discretion, while public scrutiny remained limited. For nearly a decade after the agreement, Epstein largely avoided national attention. According to records, he continued to travel. He continued to host guests. He continued to maintain his properties. To the outside world, the story appeared contained, resolved, buried. But silence does not erase records. In 2015 and 2016, investigative journalists began re-examining the case. According to published reports, journalists obtained court documents, interviewed survivors, and reviewed previously overlooked details. What emerged was a broader pattern, suggesting that the earlier investigation may have left significant questions unanswered. Documents indicate that flight logs listed frequent trips on Epstein's private aircraft. Passenger names included influential figures. No accusations were made in these records, but the frequency and context drew attention. The aircraft itself became a symbol of unanswered questions, its logs scrutinized line by line. Reports suggest that Epstein's network extended beyond social appearances. He donated to universities, funded research, and cultivated relationships with scientists and intellectuals. According to institutional records, some organizations later acknowledged receiving money without fully understanding its source or implications. Behind closed doors, survivors described experiences that contrasted sharply with Epstein's public image. According to sworn testimony, they spoke of manipulation, control, and exploitation. These accounts described recruitment methods that relied on trust, opportunity, and vulnerability. The stories shared common elements, even when told independently. As these accounts gained attention, public pressure grew. According to legal filings, federal prosecutors in New York reopened the case. This time the focus was broader, the jurisdiction wider, the scrutiny sharper. In July 2019, Epstein was arrested on federal charges. According to the indictment, the allegations involved sex trafficking of minors. The arrest sent shockwaves through elite circles. Behind closed doors, reactions were reportedly swift and cautious. Statements were measured, distances were created. The detention itself became part of the story. According to records, Epstein was held in a federal facility under conditions intended to prevent self-harm. Reports suggest that procedural failures occurred. Cell assignments changed, monitoring protocols shifted. Documentation later raised serious concerns. On August 10, 2019, Epstein was found dead in his cell. According to the official ruling, his death was ruled a suicide. But the circumstances immediately triggered widespread skepticism. Broken cameras, unresponsive guards, inconsistent timelines. Each detail added another layer of doubt. Behind closed doors, investigations began. The Department of Justice initiated internal reviews. According to reports, correctional officers faced scrutiny, policies were examined, mistakes were acknowledged. Yet for many observers, the explanations felt incomplete. The death effectively ended the criminal case against Epstein, but it did not end the questions. Documents indicate that attention shifted to associates. Civil lawsuits continued. Records were unsealed. Names appeared in legal filings, often accompanied by careful language. Allegations were distinguished from proven facts. Still, the scale of the network remained unclear. According to court documents, Ghislaine Maxwell, a close associate of Epstein, became a central figure in subsequent proceedings. Reports suggest she played a key role in managing logistics, schedules, and introductions. Her trial would later reveal additional details about the inner workings of Epstein's world. Throughout these proceedings, the phrase Epstein Files entered public vocabulary. It referred not to a single document, but to a collection of records, depositions, emails, flight logs, financial statements, sealed agreements, and testimonies. Together, they painted a fragmented picture. What made these files unsettling was not just what they contained, but what they omitted. According to legal experts, many documents remained sealed. Others were heavily redacted. Some records were never created at all. Behind closed doors, settlements were reached quietly. Non-disclosure agreements ensured silence. According to filings, financial compensation was provided in exchange for confidentiality. This further limited public understanding of the full scope. Media coverage intensified, then fragmented. Some outlets focused on institutional failures. Others emphasized individual responsibility. According to media analysis, attention often shifted away from systemic issues toward isolated narratives. Meanwhile, questions about power lingered. How did Epstein maintain access for so long? How did warnings fail to trigger intervention earlier? According to watchdog reports, regulatory gaps, jurisdictional conflicts, and resource limitations all played roles. Documents indicate that wealth can insulate individuals from scrutiny. Legal complexity can delay accountability. Influence can redirect attention. None of these factors alone explain the entire story, but together they form a pattern. The Epstein Files, as they exist today, remain incomplete. According to court schedules, additional documents may be released over time. Others may remain sealed indefinitely. Each release sparks renewed debate, renewed analysis, renewed frustration. Behind closed doors, institutions continue to reckon with their connections. Universities review donations. Foundations revise policies. According to public statements, reforms are underway, though their impact remains to be seen. For survivors, the process continues. According to advocacy groups, many still seek acknowledgement rather than attention. Their accounts, preserved in legal records, stand as reminders of the human cost behind procedural language. The scandal, when viewed in full, is less about one individual and more about a system that allowed secrecy to thrive. According to analysts, it reveals how power operates quietly, how silence is maintained, and how accountability can be deferred. As time passes, memories fade, headlines shift, and attention moves on. But documents remain, records persist, and behind closed doors, unanswered questions continue to wait. The Epstein Files do not offer closure. They offer fragments. Each fragment suggests a larger structure, mostly unseen. According to records, that structure relied on discretion, loyalty, and the assumption that silence would hold. Whether the full story will ever be known remains uncertain. What is clear is that the scandal exposed vulnerabilities in systems designed to protect. And as long as files remain sealed and questions remain unanswered, the story continues, not in public view, but where it began, behind closed doors.